Just left my house, going to Australia.
Welcome to Modern Grand Tour with me, Garland Lowe. Join the journey as we spend 3 months travelling to the other side of the world. Like the Grand Tours of old, we'll immerse ourselves in foreign cultures and feed our curiosity for the world with the diverse education that comes only with travel. We'll go on walking tours to understand the most popular and historic sites. We'll visit museums and pick out the most important objects and events. We'll talk to the locals and ask them what they think about their country. And there'll be some special moments off the beaten track. Travelling light with one small backpack, the itinerary for this trip begins with Belgium, followed by the Netherlands, Germany, Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Russia, where we'll couch surf across the country via the Trans-Siberian Railway, then catch my first flights to South Korea and Japan before finally arriving in Australia, just in time for my best friend's wedding. In this 5th episode of the series, we'll learn about Denmark's coolest king, we'll try traditional Danish food, and we'll explore the concept fundamental to understanding Danish culture, Hygge. Staying with an old friend, let's explore Denmark's second city of Aarhus.
Right, so now I'm meeting my Danish friend Sarah.
Having met Sarah whilst travelling in the US, I hadn't seen her in almost a decade, so it was a surprise when I found out she was carrying this little secret.
I finally got here. How are you?
What? Oh yeah, you haven't seen.
Oh my god!
After the congratulations, Sarah took me to this seemingly random warehouse, where I was further surprised by what was inside.
Where is this place quickly? Like, it's amazing.
Yeah,
Is that where all the cool people hang out?
Aarhus is a really cool city, you know?
Is it because of the students? It's your student town, right?
And it just became the new, like, a culture city in Europe.
Ah, right, every year they choose one.
Yes.
Right, yeah. Okay.
And there's, like, so much going on.
Seeking my first taste of Denmark, I ordered the very traditional smørrebrød, a variety of Danish open sandwiches.
What is this?
This is potato salmon, egg with pesto, egg with mustard, some kind of meat, a pulled pork meat, something.
Thank you, Sarah, for the definitive description of the pulled pork meat or something. Although looking fancy now with its salmon and pulled pork toppings, smørrebrød's origins comes from the Danish factory workers of the Industrial Revolution, who no longer returned home for lunch, and so carried with them the cheapest ingredients of bread, butter, and the previous night's leftovers. The next morning, it was time to start quizzing Sarah on all matters Denmark.
Now you look at the Vikings as like funny people, but obviously if you lived at the time and the Vikings came on your land, it wasn't funny at all.
No, I don't think it.
It was like...
Did you watch the series called Vikings? And you can see they just ruin everything.
Yeah, they ruin everything, yeah. I mean, they're the equivalent of like ISIS or the Nazis. They just come over to the land and just start raping and stealing.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it was not so nice.
It was horrible, wasn't it? And but now the Vikings are like, oh, look at we, the Vikings, la la la. Yeah. You have the common Viking heritage. Yeah. How are you different? How are you different from the other Scandinavian countries? If I think of Sweden, I think of IKEA. If I think of Norway, I think they've got lots of oil and money.
Yeah, they stole our money.
They stole your... How did they steal your money?
We were so stupid. A lot of years ago, we were sharing the oil.
So you shared that sea?
Yeah, and some idiot gave them the oil.
The commonly held story is that this idiot was Danish Foreign Minister Per Hygge, who in 1965 met with his Norwegian counterpart to draw their boundaries of the North Sea. Only in the meeting, Per Hygge was drunk. And this is evident, as Danes like to point out, by the line of demarcation that dips in favour of Norway. And of course, this dip is exactly where the oil fields were to be found. Although Per Hygge was a known alcoholic, his drunkenness at the meeting was later proved to be false, which may or may not make Danes feel a little better over the $1 trillion of oil revenue they still missed out on.
That's something we mention a lot.
Like, really?
Stole our oil.
Okay, so Norway stole your oil, Sweden have IKEA, and Denmark...
I don't know.
Because Sweden also have ABBA. That's two great things.
We have Aqua.
Ah,
you remember Aqua?
Yeah, Aqua. That
Barbie girl.
Yeah. You're representing Denmark, eh? You have to come big Denmark.
I don't know. Because Norway has more, like, nature-wise, they're much more beautiful.
Okay, so Norway's naturally more beautiful.
Yeah.
Sweden seems to be exporting more famous, popular products. So for me, when I think of Denmark, because I'm a big football fan, Peter Schmeichel, he is the most famous Danish person because he's the best goalkeeper in the world, ever.
We have a saying called Hygge.
Hygge.
And that's like when it's cozy. Now we have to hygge us. That's like a saying we have. Yeah. So tonight we just have to be on the couch, watch some television.
Oh, okay.
Be with some friends.
That's a very typical Danish
mindset.
Okay.
And then just as I'd settled on Schmeichel and Hygge, Sarah remembered her one special thing about Denmark.
One special thing?
We have 1 year of maternity leave.
It's a lot.
I remember there was a documentary. They just went to all these countries and asking, what do you do when you're having a baby? It's like, I'm home for 1 day or 2 weeks.
Indeed, Denmark is one of only a few countries that offers paid maternity leave for at least a year, whilst it also offers a generous 34 days of paid holidays. And when Danes do finally go to work, they work less hours than anyone in the world.
It's basically saying we really value family and motherhood and caring for children, which I think is really amazing. First day in Aarhus. I'm going to walk to my walking tour.
Standing proudly in the main square, the Aarhus Cathedral is the tallest and longest church in Denmark. With the cathedral dedicated to the patron saint of sailors, St. Clement, a model wooden ship commonly hung in Danish churches is a reminder of Denmark's relationship with the sea, where everybody is only 1 hour away from the coast.
The Mill Road, or Mill Street. As you can see, it's a really traditional, really old, really cozy street. And I think we're really proud of this street actually in Aarhus. I think it's the most cozy street in Aarhus.
Whilst in the cosy street, we then learnt about two very important Danish words.
The first one is hygge. You can't really translate it into any English word. I think the best one for me may be cozy. For example, this street is really hygge. Hygge can also be Friday afternoon after a long week of studying, working, having a beer with your friends or your colleagues. It can also be when you get home for Christmas, you meet the whole family, you have your grandma's homemade cookies and tea. That is hygge as well. So the other Danish word is skål. Yeah, it's cheers. And the word dates back to the Viking age. Because the Vikings, when they went out to kill their enemies, they took their enemies with them back, cut off their head and their skulls, cleaned the skulls, and then they drank from the skulls. And then they did like this with the skulls before they drank. Skål. So skål actually means skull. So skål and hygge. If you know those two words, then you can do it very well here in Denmark.
And we pay a lot of taxes. The lowest amount of tax you can pay is 38%. But then I also need to say that the lowest amount you can get paid per hour is around 100 Danish crowns. 15 euros, more or less. We also get a lot for those money that we pay. Because we have a really good welfare system. Actually, I think we have maybe the best welfare system in the world. We go to doctor for free, hospitals for free, and university for free. And actually we get a little money every month to study. But I think that's really something that makes Denmark special. And I think almost all people here in Denmark are willing to pay their tax happily. We get a lot of it.
You get a lot of money. There's healthcare. USA is, you have no insurances, you name it.
Having learnt about the world's most liberal welfare system, our tour guide and her colleague then enlightened us about their liberal drinking culture by comparison to Sweden's Systembolaget, a state monopoly of liquor stores designed to control unruly behaviour, as this popular Danish cartoon humorously stereotypes.
Where you have to buy your alcohol if you want to have a beer or some wine.
You have to go there and you have to have, it's very strict.
It's very strict,
They are only open from maybe 10 until 5 or 6, also on weekends. So if you decide Friday night at 8 that you want to have a bottle of wine with your friends, it's impossible if you don't have it. In Denmark you can just go to the closest 7-Eleven, gas station, supermarket.
A little bit more liberal when it comes to that.
Yeah, a lot more liberal, I think.
Actually. Who was actually the coolest king Denmark ever had? Some said Erik of Pommern, because he started out as nothing, became adopted by the Danish queen, became king of Denmark, resigned as king and became a pirate. Kinda cool. Yeah, I get that. Some say Christian IV because of all the magnificent buildings he had added to Copenhagen, but also almost bankrupting Denmark. Some say Christian II because he beheaded 82 Swedish noblemen in 1522. I think that is actually valid too. Some say Frederick VII because he gave us our constitution, but for me it will always be this guy.
I want to tell you about the sculpture here. It's Christian X, the king before Frederick IX, which is the father of the queen we have now. So Christian X. He was king during the Second World War and First World War. And he was extremely popular, extremely well liked. Because he was one of the only kings in Europe that stayed in his country during the war. A really good story?
I have some good stories about him. Yeah. Now Hitler really liked him. He was blonde, blue eyes, tall, married to a German. Yeah, Hitler liked him a lot. And royalty. So he had sent him a long letter of congratulations on his 70th birthday. Now Christian was not a big fan of Hitler, let's put it that way. But he was also polite, so he of course wrote him back a telegram consisting of one word: thanks, Christian Rex. Now in 1940, when we were invaded, the Nazis didn't do anything to the Danish Jews. They actually wanted Denmark as it was. But in 1943, the Nazis decided it's now time to round up the Danish Jews and send them to the camps. And they decided to do this on October 29th, Yom Kippur, which is the Jewish New Year, where all the Jews would go to the synagogue. A couple of Danish politicians heard about this. They sent out the warning to the Jews: stay away and we'll figure out what to do. We had good connections in Sweden. Contacted the Swedish king and asked them, can you have our Jews for a while? Because we want to save them. And a very big operation starts to sail over to Sweden. There's only like 2 kilometers over there. Anything that could sail was used. I mean, rowing boats, sailing boats, fishing boats, everything was used. And that way, 8,500 Danish Jews made it to Sweden. Only 500 were taken by the Nazis. I found out that my granddad was actually hiding Jews in his basement in this period. And I'm damn proud of it, really, because I think that's kind of cool of my granddad. But then again, it's not unusual. I know a lot of people who have family that was involved in this, because all Danes were involved in this. Now the 500 that was taken was sent down to Theresienstadt, which was a holding camp in Czech Republic. Well, Christian X, we're back to our favorite here. He was furious. They had taken some of his subjects for doing nothing but being Jewish. Hell no, they're not Jewish, they're Danish, and they're my subjects. So he contacts the Red Cross and tells them, get my people home. Get them out of there, get them. And the Danish Red Cross, how? I don't know, do it. And when the king says jump, you ask how high. So they went down there to check this out. And while they were down there, they went up to, when they were finished checking out the place, they went to the camp commander and said, by the way, we're going to take all the Danish Jews with us when we're leaving. And him being a good Nazi, knowing how to take orders, he asked, by whose orders? Christian X of Denmark. Okay. So they left with the 500 Danish Jews and 200 Norwegians while they were at it, and got them all up to Sweden before anybody found out what was actually going on here. And that way, only 42 Danish Jews died in Theresienstadt. All of them well, they were dying from age, they were old people, or sick, or whatever. And that is a success rate of 99.9%, which is quite good, I think. Now, I blame this on one thing and one thing only. It's a word we have used several times today, hygge. Because when you have had hygge with somebody, you're not going out to kill them. You try to help them if anybody's after them.
So we are in the Aarhus Museum of Occupation, and of course Europe's history is very much tied together, and this includes its modern history, which is quite clearly evident when you see things like this. Even though we're in Denmark, it feels like I could be back in a museum in Germany. So this is the Danish resistance movement. They just look like ordinary people, but with guns. The helmets don't even fit them. They've got a guy in the coat. Look like they're just going to work and someone's given them a gun and a helmet. I'm not sure how they would have fared against the Nazis. So this was the clothing as worn by the Danish resistance movement. But of all the uniforms on display, this guy looks like he's modelling a new jumper for H&M. And this one, when was the last time you saw a soldier with a tie?
Meeting up with Sarah after my tour and museum visit, we had a brief walk around Aarhus' internationally award-winning library and cultural centre with its views over the harbour, before we finally sat down for a meal of traditional Danish food, where Sarah and her partner Jesper helpfully explained to me exactly what I was eating.
And what is the type of fish? What fish is it?
Herring.
Herring, okay. Marinated, fried and spicy? No,
spicy. Yeah.
Spicy, okay. So you've got the fish in different styles, and then the mayonnaise, and then
fat with fried onions.
Yeah, that's basically it.
Fat with fried onions.
Yeah.
Why?
Why? Yeah.
Yeah, why? I'm just like, the question is why.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna try some. I like new experiences. Am I supposed to eat it like this, or do I?
You can taste it. Just
okay.
taste it.
Otherwise, when you put the fish and all that, I don't think the taste would be like.
It's just like better than.
It's how I imagine it would taste. It's fatty.
Yeah.
It's like oily,
fatty,
really oily. Yeah.
Quite thick piece of fish. Curry, mayonnaise, and then the onions.
The sour.
Knife and fork, or put it in my mouth? That's nice. That's really nice.
For the rest of this delightfully Danish meal, we had pan-fried bacon rashers, a fillet of plaice with remoulade sauce, shrimps in mayonnaise, smoked eel with scrambled eggs, meat jelly and Danish cheese on rye bread, and a uniquely Scandinavian liquor infused with spices and herbs called aquavit, which is traditionally drunk either sipped or gulped from a small tulip glass, as demonstrated here.
Okay, skål.
Skål.
Skål. That's actually really nice. We just went to the shops to buy some breakfast, and we came back, and Sarah immediately just opened the door without using the key. And I was like, what's going on? What happened? And apparently that's what they do in Denmark, or in Aarhus, or?
Denmark.
In Denmark. Okay.
Right now it's just lazy. I didn't want to bring my key, and I didn't want to find it all. Just
right, okay. But you was very comfortable, and
yes,
that no one was going to come in. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so there you go. So I think living in London, I would never ever. In fact, if I if I thought I'd left the door unlocked, and I would walk back. In fact, yeah, immediately, wherever I was in the world. So there you go. Denmark seems to be a more trustworthy and just, I think, nicer place. Yeah, learned something today.
And so now on a ferry, having left Sarah's house in Aarhus, I came to my conclusion as to why Denmark is consistently rated the happiest country in the world, and it is this: Denmark values its people before anything else. From the encouragement of personal and family time as exemplified in its maternity leave, holidays and working hours, to its support for the growth of both young and old as demonstrated by its free university and healthcare, and from its cosy culture of Hygge that emphasises friendship and simplicity, to the trust given to one another as shown by Denmark's unlocked doors. Join me in the next episode of Modern Grand Tour, where we'll visit Denmark's capital city of Copenhagen and get acquainted with their famous drink, their infamous drugs, and learn about one of the world's most popular fairy tale writers, Hans Christian Andersen. So until next time, Godspeed.